The honourable member for Vancouver Quadra.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to have an opportunity to contribute to the debate on Bill C-60, which is a budget implementation bill, and to provide my comments. It's difficult really in the time available to do justice to a bill like this, because once again, we have a bill that has a huge variety of measures. Some of them are new policy measures. Some of them are not even in the budget speech. So to actually do justice is very difficult. What I'd like to do is really think about how does this bill contribute to a sustainable future for our country, and the opportunities and freedoms that we enjoy today. How does this help our children and their children in the future enjoy those same kinds of opportunities and freedoms? And I want to start by saying that one of the things that's important for society and for its health and well-being over time is transparency and honesty in terms of government policy and government measures. And so one of the reasons that the Liberals will not be supporting this bill is because of the tax increases, but more than that, it's because of the lack of transparency in terms of these tax increases. We call them stealth tax increases because we have a government that has been continuing to deny, really, that they are increasing taxes, whereas it is absolutely clear that this budget implementation bill, this government is actually increasing taxes, net taxes, over the coming 5 years. And in fact, in each and every year, taxes are, the net impact on middle-class Canadians is for higher taxes. So by the end of 5 years, $3.3 billion more coming out of Canadians' pockets through this net increase in taxes. So we can't support a budget that does that. I want to focus initially here on the impact on small business because, Mr. Speaker, as the speaker before me, I'm from a small business background. In fact, I spent 25 years building a business into another category of as a middle-sized business. And so I know the challenges that small businesses face, especially in securing capital for their growth, especially for securing investment to upgrade and update to their equipment. And so what small businesses do is they utilize the retained earnings of that business itself, and they utilize in many cases, the paychecks or the savings of the business owners. And so that's why this dividend tax credit was so important to small business owners, because those are funds that they can use to help grow their businesses when the market is not available as it is to public corporations. And that's why it is so mystifying to me that a government that is claiming to be pro-business, a government is claiming to want to make a healthier economy, is actually sideswiping the very people, small business owners and their employees, who are so critical to that. In fact, this isn't the only way this change to the dividend tax for small business is only one of many ways in which small businesses are really paying for some of this conservative government's really mismanagement of budgets and unaccountable spending. It's also surprising to me that large corporations have enjoyed approximately 7% reductions in their corporate taxes under this government, and yet small business rate has only dropped 1 percentage point in that time. In the meantime, $600 million a year each and every year for the past 3 years and going forward is loaded onto businesses for an EI payroll tax increase. Mr. Speaker, small businesses account for 42% of private sector GDP. That's an enormous part of our economy, yet we are undermining those enterprises' ability to invest and grow their businesses. Between 2001 and 2005, Canada's small and medium enterprises created 467,708 jobs. That's almost a half a million jobs. And so what is the comparable figure under this Conservative government? Between 2006 and 2010, under the Conservatives, the overall net number of jobs created by small and medium enterprises was negative 10,831. So we're seeing a government that is failing the small and medium business community. In 2005, here's a snapshot. Liberals helped small businesses create almost 40,000 net jobs. In 2011, small businesses created 21,000 net jobs. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a government that has been failing small businesses, and this bill, this particular bill, Bill C-60, this budget is a huge extra hit on small businesses. So certainly that's not something that we can possibly support. Now, let's take a look at some of the other impacts of this bill on sustainability. But before I do that, Mr. Speaker, I do want to acknowledge that there are elements of this bill that I think are positive and that I support, and certainly the Liberals support. Au niveau de durabilité sociale, l'amélioration des allocations aux anciens combattants en supprimant la déduction des prestations d'invalidité, nous appuyons. Un autre au niveau de la durabilité sociale, c'est la hausse du fonds pour la taxe sur l'essence à 2% par année, so indexing the gas tax, and that will certainly be helpful in my community of Vancouver and my riding of Vancouver Quadra. Au niveau de la durabilité économique, j'appuie les mesures de lutte contre la fraude fiscale parce que tout le monde n'aime pas le trichage. C'est important d'avoir des mesures pour que les gens ne puissent tricher. Les crédits d'impôt pour l'exploration minière, c'est très important dans ma province de Colombie-Britannique. Et au niveau environnemental, il y a une subvention de 20 millions de dollars pour la conservation de la nature au Canada. So one small gift, one small give of funds, $20 million funds to Nature Conservation Canada, but that is so woefully small. In terms of sustainability, at $20 million to one organization when this government has cut hundreds of millions from Environment Canada. The experimental lakes area, just one example of so many program cuts, Parks Canada, and climate change. This is a government that unfortunately is untruly claiming that they are at a certain level of reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, whereas they are on track to actually having higher levels of greenhouse gas emissions than 2005, while the Conservatives' target is 17% below. So, Mr. Speaker, I think everyone should take notice of what Keeling's curve is telling us today. Now, Keeling's curve is the world's longest unbroken record of atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations. And this record, which is from a facility operated at the Mauna Loa Observatory near the top of a volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii, shows that carbon dioxide has been increasing steadily from values around 317 parts per million when Dr. Charles D. Keeling began measurements in 1958 to nearly 400 parts per million today. That means that we are coming close to the level that this world saw in the Pleistocene era, at a time at which the Arctic was 10 degrees hotter than it is today, and the rest of Canada was 6 to 8 degrees hotter. So we have an emergency with respect to climate warming, and this government is not only ignoring that, not only not funding anything to deal with that, but is in fact pretending that they are accomplishing advances that they simply are not. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, some of the important elements of social and democratic, environmental sustainability, business sustainability that I would like to see are not in this bill. That in fact, what the key measure that jumps out from this bill is a woeful attack on small businesses through a massive increase in their costs and money taken out of their pockets that they need to expand and to update their enterprises. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Cooperation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I listened to my colleague in her speech, and quite frankly, all it really was a speech about what the Liberals didn't get done under their agenda. First of all, when she's talking about climate change, we know that the Liberals allowed, after they signed the Kyoto Accord, allowed emissions to increase by 33%. Our government is getting it done. We have lowered emissions. We have a plan, and we're working towards it. But, Mr. Speaker, for most of my adult life, I have created my own job. And I am a small business owner, so I know what it means to create jobs for other people. And I look at what this budget is doing. It's strengthening the competitiveness of the manufacturing sector. We've put in tax relief for new manufacturing machinery and equipment. We've got investing in world-class research and innovation. And so when she talks about putting problems in place for small businesses, my question to my colleague is, why is it that the Liberals stole $52 million out of the EI fund, which put a tax on small businesses?
Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll just respond to the Parliamentary Secretary opposite. Why did their government continue to take those funds into general revenue? If they felt so strongly about it, they did exactly the same thing. But what I would actually like to point out is that Parliamentary Secretary has a department in which there has been a massive 39% cut to CEDA by 2014-15. So in terms of democratic sustainability, our very organization for development assistance overseas, which ties into Canada's reputation as a constructive, as a member of the international community, or used to, 39% cut. And now that organization has essentially been swallowed into the Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade to simply be another arm of this government's attempts to improve trade, which we're not seeing the results yet. We have a massive trade deficit, so whatever the government's doing on the trade file is not working.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and across the way I agree that certainly the Liberals had 13 years to get the job done, and at a time when they had a big surplus and they still didn't get the job done. But let's look at the Conservative side now. And the Conservatives like to crow about their record on job creation, but there are still almost 1.4 million Canadians out of work. There are still 240,000 more young people unemployed today than before the recession, and the only job creation measure in Bill 60 is for more cabinet members. Now, I bring this up because the two members on the Conservative side that just spoke said that they're small business people. My colleague here talked about the fact that she's a small business person, and let me talk to you about the small business people on Manitoulin Island and the fact that this government didn't do the job of making sure that those fenders and that their ports were actually in order, and now that whole economy is about to fall apart, and we're talking about anywhere between $25 to $35 million that this government is willing to see go down the pipe. So maybe my colleague can speak to this, the fact that all of these small businesses are about to fold if that Cheecheman ferry doesn't go on. Does she think that this will actually increase jobs and the government's stand on the economy, or does she think that this will be detrimental and we'll see a higher rate of unemployed people and a higher rate of people on welfare?
For Vancouver Quadra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the question from my honourable colleague and agree completely that this Conservative government has been a failure in terms of job creation. I mean, there's still hundreds of thousands fewer jobs than there were when they came into office. Youth unemployment is far worse than it was 5 years ago. And in my constituency of Vancouver Quadra, where we have the world-class university UBC, of course that hits young people coming out of university who can't find a first job. Another aspect of the problems with job creation is our tourism industry, whereas in fact it is the Conservative government's very cuts to their tourism marketing arm, and that's a 41% plunge over the last decade that has led to Canada slipping from 7th to 18th in international arrivals over the last 10 years. So this government has so many fronts on which they are failing. In fact, they are exacerbating the problem and making it harder for young people to get a job.